I've been in this business for 23 years. Started in the car business out of high school, working at a gas station first thing. Every place I've ever been has had something to do with cars. And just kind of grew into the business, grew into the position, grew into the responsibilities. Acura brand is outstanding from the standpoint of their commitment to the customer. I've never seen a manufacturer that was so eager to help to be sure that the customer was satisfied and the customer still appreciated their product long after the warranty is expired in some cases. And it's a very nice thing to see that commitment from the manufacturer still carrying through. You know, what we find with economic times as they are currently is that we find that people are still of a mindset to take care of their vehicle, but they're very, very concerned about the cost of maintaining their vehicle. The nice thing is that Acura has put things into place over the years that has diminished the cost of maintenance over a longer period of time and extended some of the maintenance intervals on some other items. What's that done is it's brought the cost down for the consumer so that they're not spending as much maintaining their vehicle on a year-to-year basis, month-to-month basis, week-to-week basis. What it does for them in that case is it may reduce their costs 20% a year on what they would normally be spending on maintenance. That's a huge thing right now. Over a long period of time, an independent is not going to stand behind their product the way the dealership does. An independent might be 10% cheaper than a dealership, but they're not using the quality of factory parts. They may not even honor the warranty of the part once you drove off the lot. Whereas everything we do has a 12/12. From the day you drive away after repairs, long after warranties expired and everything else, if you came in today and you had work done on your car with 200,000 miles, and we see them regularly, and you drove out of here and 6 months from now you have a problem with the part that we put on your car, it's covered. I don't care if your car has 200,000, 500,000, or 10 miles. You have that peace of mind built in. The other thing that we as a dealer have is that we have availability of all of those parts. We have availability of all of the factory parts that were designed and engineered for the car. The aftermarket world gets the stuff that didn't fit the mold properly, that kicked out of the mold and was hanging up. There was a piece of slag or a piece of flashing hanging off on something that was manufactured that way. That's why when you go to get, especially trim pieces, you go to get aftermarket trim pieces for your vehicle, and you got to modify them to make them fit, or you got to make the clips line up. Well, that's because when they were manufactured, they didn't come out of the mold properly. Whoever manufactured them, it may still have the same manufacturer's name as far as the plant that made it, but it's a completely different product because it didn't meet the quality, it didn't meet the standards that Acura requires. The other thing is, you're not going to find an independent out there that says, you know what, you bring your car into me for service, I've got a car for you to drive. I'll come pick your car up. I'll bring your car back to you. You know, to have someone who knows your car, knows exactly what they're doing on your car, knows what to do to your car, and more importantly, knows what not to do to your car, is a huge feather in your cap as an Acura owner that goes to a dealer, whether it's our dealer or whether it's another dealer. A factory-trained Acura technician is such an asset to you for anything that you might want, anything that you might need, because they have the tools, they have the equipment, and they have the knowledge to do it right the first time. Independents can do it, and they'll get around to it, and they'll get through it eventually, but it's not going to be a factory part. It's not necessarily going to fit the way you want it to, and then you may have problems with fit from that point on for a lot of things. There's a lot of stuff out there in the independent world that's cheaper, and there's resources for them to get the information on how to install a part, but there's no place out there for them to have the resource to know why they're installing that part. On the newer models especially, starting in '05, Acura has what's called a maintenance minder system. They've gotten away from the 30, 60, 90. Depending on your driving habits, will determine how consistent and how timely and how spaced the intervals are for the maintenance that you need to do on your car. That goes back to reducing the cost. That also goes to, it'll tell you when you're at 15% oil life remaining. Not an oil level, not oil quantity, but oil life. The lubricating ability of the oil has 15% left. Well, what that does is that gives you this 750 to 1,200 mile window to know when you can fit it into your schedule. And that might be packaged with a tire rotation. The car might say, you know what, we're coming up close on needing the transmission service done, so if the computer inside the car is going to run a logarithm and it's going to say we're going to do this at the same time. And it'll come up and it'll give you different codes, and those codes indicate what needs to be done. That started in '04 and '05 on most of our models. The nice thing about that is it gives you time to prepare, it gives you time to get that scheduled in. You call us, you say, hey, how much is this service going to be? We'll give you an answer over the phone, we'll give you a quote, stick to the quote. When you bring the car in, we'll set you up. When we make the appointment, we'll give you a loaner car, we'll get you off on your day. You could drop it off after hours if it's more convenient for you, and pick it up after hours if it's more convenient for you. You know, being that most of my customers, their time is so valuable, we really do try to limit our waiters. Unless it's just a simple oil change, which is an A service on the newer vehicles, what we try to do is we try to schedule them for a loaner so that they can go on about their day and not worry about what we're doing with their car. We get their car, we have the opportunity to not just to take care of that service, but to be sure their brakes are good, to be sure their tires are good, to be sure that nothing in the suspension is leaking, to be sure that there's no loose bolts anywhere in the subframe. That's all part of what makes Acura a better value. And to do that, to be sure that the car is being maintained, to be sure that those bolts are being checked, to be sure that all of those things are being looked at and attended to on a regular basis is what gives you the longevity in the 200, 250, and 300,000 mile vehicles that we see. For folks that want to wait, we've got the Wi-Fi, we've got a number of snacks, continental breakfast that we set up every day, and that carries throughout the day. We've got Starbucks coffee, we've got Starbucks teas, we've got bottled water, we've got, all of the satellite channels so they can check on the stock market, they can do anything that they'd like while they're here. We're within walking distance of the golf course. They can come down, drop their car for lunch, go take their driver, go hit a bucket of balls, come back, and their car will be done. If we do have a customer that's not satisfied, the first thing to identify is how can we be better so that that doesn't happen to that customer again and doesn't happen to another customer. Every time there's someone who is not happy, gives us an opportunity to grow and to be better as a staff. Does that mean that it's not going to happen? No. Does that mean that our goal is to see that on a sliding scale? Absolutely. Do we make mistakes? We will. We're human. There's still a human factor involved in cars. Are they minimal? They truly are. If we're running at a 97% customer satisfaction, the odds of us making mistakes are 3%. The human factor goes into that, it's even less than that. But the number one thing is the customer satisfaction, the customer's happiness. If we made a mistake, we're going to take responsibility for it, we're going to take care of it, we're going to make it right, and we're going to make it right by that customer. And we always have and we always will. Nobody wants to go to a car store and sit around. Nobody wants to go to a car store and give somebody money. There are things that certainly have to happen occasionally, but we want to make it as convenient, as easy, as seamless as possible to their daily life and their daily routine.